Hi everybody, it is April and I am in my craft room, and today we're going to make a quilt with big blocks on the diagonal. I have been decluttering, and if you want to watch my journey on my decluttering, I will put that in the description below. And in the process, I found a block in a stack of blocks that I had started making for a sampler quilt. I don't know that it was last year, maybe the year before. But I really liked the block, and I thought, how can I incorporate that in a quilt that doesn't take a lot of time, but gives you a lot of bang for your buck? So I wanted to show you the block that inspired this, and this is it. I like these different strips, so that for some reason just inspired me to make the center of the block. This is what we're gonna do. These are my fabrics. I have been collecting my rainbow for quite a while. I've used a little bit of it, but it's time that I put this stuff into action. I am going to use this as the border going around my quilt, and this is Fossil Fern by Bernitex. I believe the other fabrics are from Joann's, Keepsake Calico, High Fashion Fabrics. This quilt will involve cutting strips of fabric by width of fabric and doing some strip piecing, but these strips are going to be pretty wide. So let's get started. This is almost like making a 3-yard quilt because I need to pick one of these fabrics to be my focus fabric. And it's really hard because I like all three, but I think this is going to be my focus fabric. It's got larger images on it, so I think I want this to be the wider strip. I believe this is going to be my second widest strip, and this is going to be my skinny strip. I picked this as second widest because it's got the white in the background, and I'm thinking it will break up the other two like that. We'll see what happens. As always, I need to straighten my fabric. As part of decluttering, I have new blades in the rotary cutters. So this will be a 12-inch strip. My next fabric will be not as wide as the fabric I just cut. How about 5.5 inches? I'm just making this stuff up. I'll actually write it down if you want a pattern when I'm done. And the third, which will be the skinniest strip, let's make it 3.5. I'm going to sew these strips together. I have my 3 strips of fabric here. I will start with these 2 and then add the third. I will be using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I will press my fabric. Because these are strips, you want to be careful. You don't want to press really hard when you're rubbing your iron across. You almost want to just press, especially where you see wrinkles. Did not iron these before I put them together. I did not take the selvage off before I put them together. I just sewed these 3 strips together. So this end is even, where I met all the selvages. This end is not, so I've got some fabric that's shorter, which is fine. I'll just trim this off. Once I ran it through the machine, then I ironed it. No need in doing it twice, you know? That's what I think. So let's trim this end off. So I've got my handy dandy ruler. Oh, wow. And amazingly enough, it comes up at about 20 inches. We should be able to get two 20-inch blocks. This quilt is going to go together quick with 20-inch blocks. I'm going to use my mat to measure it because I don't have, well, I have anyway, I'm using my mat. If Tiny Orchard Quilts can use her mat, I can use mine. She's way more professional than me and experienced. And I should know her name. I'm horrible with names, just horrible. All right, I am not going to move this, and I'm going to go down to my 40-inch mark. And I'm just going to take care of this right here and now. You have to make funny faces when you're cutting stuff. Otherwise, it doesn't work. This is what I have left over. Can you say pillow sham? Can you say oopsie? Ah! Can you say, I'm an idiot, I cut on the wrong side? Can you say, pillow sham? Nothing's changed, I'm still the same. So here is my block, and it is 20 by 20. Now I want my quilt to have this on the diagonal. I don't know why, I just thought it would look cool. So now I need a border for this block to make it square. This is the fabric that I've chosen for that. So what I want to do is I want two 20-inch blocks. That will give me the triangles that I need in order to make this a square with the 20-inch block on the diagonal. On my 20-inch blocks, what I found was I cut 20 inches of my fabric by width of fabric. So here is 20 inches. So I know I've got 20 inches this way. Now I need 20 inches this way. And what seems to be easiest for me is to trim the selvage off, leave it folded, then I'm going to line up my ruler with the edge of my fabric, and here's my selvage, so I'm going to cut the selvage off, and when I do that with leaving it folded, I get the selvage off both sides. Now I've got two blocks that I need to cut at 20 inches. So I'm going to line up the edge with the line on the 0 mark of my mat, and then I'm going to cut the 20 inches. So I'm going to line here, make sure this is even, use my weight. I have this little strip left over that I can put in my scrap pile. Then I've got two 20-inch squares. Also, with doing it the way that I just cut it, I know that my two 20-inch blocks are the same size. At least they start out that way. Now I don't have a ruler that's long enough to span the diagonal. So what I'm doing is I'm using two rulers, and I'm going to have them meet. So here, I know this ruler is on the diagonal, and I just have to start this one and then move it until they line up. Now I know that it is going from one corner to the other. I'm going to cut this part, and then I'm going to pull my ruler down, line up with the edge of what I've cut, and cut the rest. This gives me 4 half square triangles that will go around my center block. So now I'm ready to put my half square triangles on my center blocks. I have cut my 20-inch blocks that were made out of the fern fabric into 4 triangles. I keep wanting to say half square triangles, into 4 triangles, and what I will do is I will put this triangle here. I will center it on this fabric, and I will sew, and then I will center across the way, and I will sew this side. Then I will open these up and sew the other 2 triangles. So let me sew this and I'll show you what I mean. I've attached these 2 triangles to either side. I have opened them up and pressed them. Now I will do the same thing on this side that I did on the other 2 sides. Attach these, and I will have my square in a square block. Once I do this for all 6 of my blocks, I'll come back and show you what it looks like on the design wall. Oliver jumped up while I was sewing and reminded me that there is some trimming that needs to be done on this square in a square block. So when you overlap your triangle, and here he is to help me tell you, you need to trim this triangle. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing, buddy? That you need to cut. Here we have our square. As you can see, this quilt got really big really quickly. These 32-inch blocks, they take up a lot of space. So my husband has called dibs on this quilt, but to me it looks too skinny for the length, so I thought I would cut off the middle of these 2 blocks, maybe make a pillow or something with what was left over. But my husband is 6'3", and he said, no, this is the perfect length. Just add some borders. Just add some borders. It's very simple, right? Just add some borders. So I'm going to just add some borders. First, I'm going to put all this together. Then I'll come back, show you how I came about picking the fabric that I'm going to use for the border, add the border, and we'll be done. As you will see, my quilt has gotten quite large. Honestly, I think 4 blocks would have been plenty, but you know, again, my husband is 6'3", so now I need to add borders. I picked the fabric for the border that I had the most of after making these blocks, and it just so happened it was this plaid. So I'm going to take this plaid and I am going to cut strips of it for borders on the side. I'm not putting any borders across the top because this guy is plenty long enough. So let me get those borders on. I'll be right back. My quilt is complete, and my quilt is huge, absolutely huge. It's very bright, it's very pretty. It's now got the plaid border on the side, and this guy is going to have to go on my frame in order to be quilted because I just can't even imagine trying to put this under my sit down. Yeah, not gonna happen. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Eat some chocolate and be kind to everyone. Until next time, bye. cookie chocolate. Good. If you stayed this long, then you should get a sneak peek. Pioneer Woman fabric is now at your local Walmart. Yay. These 2 fat quarter bundles, they're going to turn into a quilt. See you later. This will involve cutting strips of width of fabric. Oh my gosh, my nose itches. This will involve cutting width of strip. Also, with doing that way, I know. Oh, sorry. This quick. And hopefully your kitty will be just as helpful as mine. You cannot have eye boogers on YouTube. I liked these different. Lost control of the rotary cutter. Lost control of the rotary cutter.